My name is Nathaniel David Holliday. I was born in Richland Hills, Texas on January 17th, 2001. I am the only child from my father, Michael Lawrence Holliday, and my mother, Angela Dawn McNair, who have been married for 24 years. The rest of my family consists of my grandfather, Don Gardner Holliday, my grandmother, Ellen K. Smith, my uncle, David Randall Holliday, and my aunt, Rebecca Ann Holliday. I've grown up in Norman, Oklahoma, where I've played soccer for the past 13 years of my 17-year life, and it was what I would like to continue with into college and hopefully enter some sort of profession in the future. Both of my parents grew up in Norman for the majority of their lives, while my grandparents, on the other hand, both grew up in Duncan, Oklahoma. My grandfather and grandmother met each other in Duncan, where they were high school sweethearts and have been married for over 50 years. Before my grandfather and his parents, my great-great-grandparents, Will and Etta Gardner, lived in the small town Springer, where they lived in a small house on what is now over 300 acres of farmland that has been passed down from generation to generation within our family. After 200 years, the Gardner family name had ran its course, as Will and Etta Gardner only had daughters and no sons. After Will and Etta passed away, their daughters Ruth, Jewel, and Mildred were the last family members to carry the Gardner name. Out of the three daughters, Jewel went on to marry Randall Holliday, who was my great-grandfather. Randall's great-grandfather went by the name of B.A. Holliday, where he fought in the Civil War and married Minta King after she moved from Florida to Oklahoma. Minta tragically died at 37, where she left three small sons to be raised by their father. Jewel and Randall went on to have two sons, Don and Joe Holliday. Joe lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with his wife Roy Holliday. Joe is retired, where he coached for the men's basketball team at the University of North Carolina. During the summer, I always take a vacation to North Carolina, whether it be for soccer camp or to visit family. But every time I go, my Uncle Joe and I always get into deep conversation of the mysterious historical landmark 3.5 hours from Chapel Hill, Roanoke Island. In August 1587, a group of 112 English colonists, including two pregnant women, arrived at Roanoke Island, a spit of land located in what is now as the Outer Banks of North Carolina, to found the second European colony on the east coast of the Americas. The new colony's governor, John White, soon headed back to England to procure additional supplies for the settlers. He intended to return as soon as possible, but delayed by England the war with Spain, it took him 3 years to again land on the Carolina shores. On August 18, 1590, White finally arrived at Roanoke. What he found, or rather what he didn't find, has evolved into one of the biggest mysteries in American history, a source of endless research, investigation, and speculation that still flourishes today. When White got to Roanoke, all the English settlers were gone and the colony abandoned. The only clues White found were two etchings, including the now famous one on a post near the entry reading Croatoan. In the ensuing decades, numerous exploration parties attempted to locate the missing settlers, but to no avail. They had vanished. Or did they? While the truth may never be completely known, numerous theories have offered to explain the colonists' disappearance. One holds that English settlers were massacred by hostile Indian tribes in the area. Another claims that they were attacked by Spanish raiders. Everyone in the world has their own opinion on what happened to them, but perhaps the most compelling explanation, and one that is gradually gaining acceptance in the historical and anthropological communities, is that the colonists left their outposts to live with and eventually assimilate into local Native American communities, especially the nearby Croatoans. When John White returned to Raleigh, another name given by the Roanoke colony as it was financed by Sir Walter Raleigh in 1590, he found no evidence that the colonists had been forced out, killed, or otherwise placed in any danger. As a result, he believed that the etched out word Croatoan referred to a local Native American region, and that the colonists were now living in the tribes based there. White's belief was underpinned by the fact that during a previous failed colonization attempt, English settlers were befriended by the welcoming Croatoan Indians and their leader, Mateo, who eventually became the namesake of a town on Roanoke Island. And at least one subsequent English explorer of the region, John Lawson, wrote in 1700 of the discovering Native Americans who spoke English and read from books. They also described people with striking European features, including most noticeably gray eyes. Many believe the lost colonists assimilated into local native people, who were then forced onto the Carolina mainland by encroaching Europeans. The lessons learned at Roanoke may have helped the next group of English settlers, who would find their own colony 17 years later, just a short distance to the north, at Jamestown.